Hello, I'm Christie Bezaire. A British Columbia couple has spent the last month driving straight across the country, making them the first ever to complete that feat in a Chevy Bolt. An investigation is underway after two passenger planes clipped wings at Toronto's Pearson International Airport Saturday night. If you want to watch Monday's eclipse, but you don't want to hurt your eyes, the university has a safe viewing event. Rita Ismail joins us in the Weather Center. Rita, a lot of people have been complaining that it hasn't been warm enough this summer, but today they got what they wished for. You know, 1969 is a long time ago. It's easy to forget how wonderful that they, brought this back out again into the limelight so we can all remember what a hero this man was.
It was. So you hear that big story, but then you hear some other stories about what kind of guy he was. And those close to him, you heard a story today that they referred to him as Robin. So he had a nickname to go along with some close friends. It was a nice tribute that the town did and LaSalle Police, and rightfully so, too.
Very touching. Thank you, Angela.
Thanks.
We're happy to report there's no longer a lame duck in Amherstburg. After 2 days of trying to inflate the world's largest rubber duck, he's finally fitting the bill. Hello, I'm Christie Bezaire. Stephanie is off. 75 years ago today, more than 500 men from Windsor, Essex were killed in a single morning. This afternoon, a special ceremony was held at Windsor's Dieppe Monument.
The regiment fought valiantly against all odds, landing at 5:25 a.m., running out of ammunition by 10:30, but holding out till 1300 hours when the withdrawal order was given.
Dozens of Windsorites attended the service along the riverfront. Windsor's Mayor Drew Dilkins was not in attendance today because he's with about 70 other Windsorites in Dieppe, France for the service there. On August 19th, 1942, nearly 5,000 Canadians stormed what's now called Red Beach. More than 3,000 of them died. The service is held at 1 o'clock because that's when the soldiers were told to retreat. Around the world, ceremonies like this are being held to remember the soldiers who fought in the Battle of Dieppe, which was code name for Operation Jubilee.
God of healing,
lest we forget.
A flag-raising ceremony Friday paid tribute to Windsor's Italian Alpini Association. Members gathered at City Hall Square to watch their Italian flag rise. The Alpini were an elite group of soldiers who fought in the First and Second World War. Windsor's Alpini Association is turning 50 this weekend, and members from across the world have traveled here to celebrate. A special mass will be held on Sunday at 10 a.m. at St. Angela's Church, followed by a ceremony at the Foglar Furling Club.
After our duty of a soldier, we became an organization of humanity, of helping other people.
OPP are looking for a third suspect in a murder investigation, and they say this man was last seen in Windsor. Ali Fajir is wanted in connection to a London murder. He's described as a black male, about 5'7" with a slim build. He has brown-black hair, brown eyes, and is known to have facial hair. He sometimes uses the alias Adam Anthony. Fajir is wanted in connection to the death of Mark McCullough. McCullough was gunned down while taking the garbage out on March 9th, 2015. Two other men were arrested in Windsor earlier this week. For the first time this summer, all 10 beaches in Windsor, Essex have the green light for swimming. And yet today, hundreds of water samples were taken and handed off to researchers at the University of Windsor. Michelle Molesky is here to explain why.
Well, Christie, he adds they might be doing this again next year. Last year, they did it on a very small scale. I think it was 20 citizen scientists they had last year. They were hoping to get 1,000, and it was looking good. As of noon today, they had a couple hundred already done. So this is one of those stories that we'll have to check back in for sure to see what happens.
I think it's really interesting. And one of the scientists was saying, we do have high E. coli levels a lot of the time, but that E. coli isn't necessarily dangerous to humans.
It isn't necessarily enough to close the beaches and whatnot, but it's always good to know more about what's happening out there. So
what's happening in our waters.
Yeah, for
Thanks,
sure.
Michelle.
You're welcome.
Windsor was turned into a large escape room this afternoon.
The escape room industry is so exciting, and there's no real bounds with what you can do.
The first ever citywide escape had teams dressed up like the 1920s rum runners, trying to escape coppers from the city to continue with their crime spree. Safe houses were set up around the city, and teams had to find clues to help escape and advance to the next safe house. About 75 people took part in the event.
We were looking for a fun way to end the summer, something that a lot of people could participate in that would just fit in with the theme of Windsor, perhaps bring some people into Windsor, and we thought Rum Runner theme fitted that perfectly.
All eyes will be on Monday's total solar eclipse, but some may not be protected. Approved eclipse glasses were sold out rather quickly at Canada South Science City. They had these notes posted on the door this morning. On Monday afternoon, the moon will move directly in front of the sun, but you're advised not to look directly at it. Our area won't get the best view, as most Canadians will only see a partial eclipse. Some of the province's top ball hockey players are in Windsor this weekend. As Angelo Aversa explains, the success of ball hockey in this area is largely thanks to one woman's efforts.
Proud of my wife. Nobody can compare to my wife.
Angelo Aversa, CTV News.
Training camps start this weekend for the LaSalle Vipers. Players met with newly appointed coach and GM John Nelson today at the Vollmer Complex. Scrimmages also take place tomorrow from 11 to 1 at the Vollmer and are open to the public. A Chatham CFLer is trying to keep kids safe on the football field.
Who's got my back? Who's got my back? I got your back. Who's got my back?
Hamilton Tiger Cats Andy Fantouz along with Craig Butler were at Citywide Field in London today. It's part of the CFL's Concussion Legacy Foundation. The goal of the camp was to teach kids how to reduce the risk of brain injuries. It included were presentations, exercises, skills, and proper tackling techniques.
Well, football is the ultimate team sport, and it got me where I am today. It's universal across Canada.
A run takes place tonight in support of Maryvale. It's happening at Dieppe Park, starting with kids runs at 8:30 p.m. and a 5K run walk at 8:45. The event supports Maryvale's Family Mental Health Treatment Center. Coming up, a Florida police officer killed in the line of duty.
Night at 11.
Charmene is back with us in the Weather Center tonight. Charmene, just a perfect day out there. I went for a run. It was spectacular. My neighbors were out washing their cars. I can't complain about this one.
Thanks, Christy. Definitely was a beautiful day out there. So we have a bit of everything to expect. Christy?
Spanish officials now say the terror cell responsible for the attack in Barcelona this week has been completely dismantled. That said, there is still an international manhunt for the man believed to be the driver of the van which drove into dozens of pedestrians. CTV's Peter Ackman has the story.
Peter Ackman, CTV News, Toronto.
Vancouver police are beefing up security ahead of an anti-immigrant rally to be held in Vancouver today.
The public is instructed not to touch us physically, not to touch us. You lay a finger on any of our supporters and the police are going to intervene.
A few dozen anti-immigrant demonstrators are expected to take part, but thousands of counter-demonstrators say they'll assemble to drown out the other group. Police say they will keep both sides apart. Officials from both groups say they don't want a repeat of what's happening in the United States. Canadian dairy is front and center at NAFTA renegotiations today. The American dairy industry is divided by Canada's current supply management system and whether it should be dismantled. A group of American dairy farmers support controls used in Canada. They want to adopt the model themselves. However, the U.S. government and America's National Milk Lobby have been working for years to weaken Canada's supply management system. A gunman opened fire on two police officers Friday night in Kissimmee, Florida, killing one officer and critically wounding the other. This morning, authorities announced they tracked down a suspect at a bar and arrested Everett Miller, who faces a charge of first-degree murder. Originally, police said they believed there were 4 suspects, but today they said no other arrests are anticipated. The officer who was killed has been identified as 27-year-old Matthew Baxter. He had been on the force for 3 years. The other officer, who was gravely wounded, has been identified as 36-year-old Sergeant Richard Sam Howard, a 10-year veteran of the department. The police chief says the suspect was carrying guns at the time of his arrest.
On approaching or confronting Mr. Miller, he reached towards his waistband. Extremely brave and heroic actions by the deputy. There were other people in the vicinity. They went hands-on, tackled him to the ground, and secured him, located a 9mm handgun and a .22 revolver on his person.
Yet another top Trump administration official is gone. President Trump's former top strategist, Steve Bannon, is now vowing publicly to crush the opposition. Kelly O'Donnell reports.
The post-Steve Bannon era begins.
Japan is preparing for a possible North Korean missile launch after North Korea threatened to launch ballistic missiles over the country toward Guam. Nearly 150 people took part in an evacuation drill in a coastal town of western Japan today to prepare for that possibility. Sirens blared from city speakers and children ran inside a school for shelter. Once inside, they sat on the floor and covered their heads. With North Korea's military capabilities growing, Japan has been looking to strengthen its defenses. Last week, President Trump warned North Korea it would face fire and fury if it threatened the U.S. That prompted North Korea to say it was considering test-firing missiles toward Guam. But North Korean media later reported that leader Kim Jong-un has delayed that decision while he wants to see what the U.S. does next. British Columbia's Workplace Safety Agency has issued its initial report into last Monday's death of a stunt woman on the set of Deadpool 2. WorkSafe BC confirms the production company's account of what went wrong. The stunt driver was supposed to drive a motorcycle down a ramp built over 3 stairs and come to a stop on a landing. However, she failed to stop on that landing and continued across the road. The motorcycle hit the curb and the driver was killed when she was thrown from the bike and through a plate glass window. There may be a pair of royal cameos in the next Star Wars film. The Star Wars cast members say Prince William and Prince Harry filmed scenes dressed as stormtroopers for Star Wars: The Last Jedi. The palace hasn't confirmed the two princes' participation in the film, but they did visit the set last April and have mentioned they're huge fans of Star Wars. Star Wars: The Last Jedi is scheduled for release this December. I'm Christie Bezaire. Thank you for watching us. Kelda will have your late news here at 11, and I'll see you tomorrow night.